Welcome to First Things First, everyone. I am Jenna Wolf. That is the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright. It is a spicy Friday today. A lot to talk about.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
Spicy?
Right now, you two might be the only two members of our staff that I haven't yelled at this morning.
Oh, good.
These 11 p.m. Eastern start time Laker games
real nice
is what's making me tense. Last Friday, you didn't see it. I yelled at Jenna irrationally.
Yep.
Today, Dusty caught a stray. Next 3 hours, though.
And guess
let's
what?
have a great show.
We're only like 4 games into the NBA season.
You know I have a broken
LeBron and
knuckle.
the Lakers are stringing wins together. Aaron Rodgers finds himself a big underdog on Sunday, and Deshaun Watson is back. That's where we start Thursday Night Football on Fox. Brock Osweiler and the Dolphins taking on his former team, the Texans, and what a night for that guy, Deshaun. Coming off the lung injury, finding Will Fuller for the 73-yard bomb, his longest touchdown pass in his career. That's the good news. Bad news, Fuller had to leave what the Texans are calling a torn ACL. One possession game in the fourth. Watson goes deep again, finds DeAndre Hopkins for the 49-yard touchdown. Nuke finished with 2 scores. Deshaun goes 16 of 20, 239 yards, 5 touchdowns. Texas wins their 5th straight 42-23. Here's Deshaun Watson after the game.
This offense can be very, very explosive. We can, do a lot of good things, put a lot of points on the board. So once, we're all on the same page and everyone's clicking and, we don't have any turnovers and no penalties, we can be very, very explosive. And that's what we showed tonight.
All right, see, does it look like Deshaun Watson is back after this win last night? Put together quite a game.
Well, you'd like to be able to see the young quarterbacks be able to play an efficient game like this, especially when you have to watch the flow of the game. Because the game, halftime was a, back and forth game. It could go either way. One play could turn it for the Dolphins. One play could have turned it for the Titans. And you'd like to with Jenna, I was like, Jenna,
so funny.
It's the Texans.
No one wants to acknowledge
Texans. Now I'm on the Titans here at 6:32. But this game could have gone either way, and I'd like to see young quarterbacks that can play in this type of environment, and they don't have to throw the ball 40 times, but they can be efficient with a limited number of throws, perfect conditions, not bad weather, but because of the flow of the game, we don't know when the quarterback's going to have to throw 40 times, but you like to have the option as a coach to be able to see your young quarterback and other people support them. Their running attack supported their quarterback, so you shouldn't have the we don't want him to be Superman every week. All right? There's sometimes that he should be supported by his defense, by the running game, by the deep passing game, so they didn't have to have a lot of attempts. That's what I enjoyed seeing. Only 20 attempts, 16 completions. You have 16 completions, you throw 5 touchdowns. That's a hell of a day.
More touchdowns than incompletions, which is, no matter what level of football you're playing, you'll take that every time you can. Now, here's what I'm seeing with Deshaun. He trusts his knee again. Like that, I think, is what you're getting at, because he is not afraid when it's being presented to him. Now, with that weak offensive line for the Texans on the rollouts, okay, I got to go run. And he is what he is doing smartly this week that he hadn't done previously is, I got to go run, and then I got to get down. I don't need to fight for 20 yards. I can slide at 15 yards. And you saw it's really unfortunate for the Texans that Will Fuller looks like he tore his ACL, because he is a perfect complement to what is, I'm very comfortable saying, a special football player in DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins, Hopkins can do just about everything well. The one thing Hopkins doesn't have is elite straight line speed. That's what Will Fuller added on the opposite side. So the fact that he might have torn his ACLs, unfortunate for them, but that's what this offense can be. Deshaun Watson looking a lot like Clemson Deshaun Watson. That's what we saw last year in the 6-game sample before he hurt his knee. You're starting to see that come back.
And it's something you said all along, that a true recovery period from a torn ACL is not a year, but more like a year and a half, which puts us right here, and you saw him feel so much more comfortable last night. Okay, so now the Texans have won 5 in a row. Yesterday we went through talking about how some of those wins were very close. Did you earn them or did you just get the W? Now that it's 5 in a row, can you look at them as contenders, true contenders?
Well, the thing, you can look at them as 5 in a row, but I think it's important the last 2. What they did to Jacksonville was a huge win, and how they were able to build on that, because at some point are the Texans going to have a formidable defense? And in the last couple of weeks, we can say that. Adam Case, Brock Osweiler, they didn't have the weapons, but they were able to negate them after that first half. That's what you want to be able to see. This team can't play in shootouts. When you have J.J. Watt, you have Clowney, you shouldn't be playing in shootouts. You should be able to limit the offense in what they're trying to do. So I think these last 2 wins, they are legitimate. There are some teams that started the season, Jenna, they were bad football teams. And I believe that the Texans are in that group. But as you go through the month of October, those teams won't stay bad football teams. Some of those teams will become respectable to good football teams, potential playoff teams, and that's where I think the Texans are right now. They have a chance to be able to fight, to be able to get into the playoffs. You have to like the momentum, but Will Fuller injury, I believe that's a significant injury, and it's going to affect that offense because of if we're going to have a wide receiving team, we got to have it like a basketball team. So his speed opposite of Nuke's superstar ability, catch radius, I believe that will be missed.
The Texans are now the fifth team in NFL history, start 0-3 and follow that up immediately with a winning streak of 5 games or longer. The previous 4, only 1 even made the playoffs. Because you dig yourself that hole, your margin of error is not very big, and when you start the year 0-3, there are usually some serious flaws to the team. Go ahead.
Yeah, that you can't overcome. That losing, good teams can lose 2 in a row, but good teams are not going to lose 3 in a row, and I think the history, it speaks to that.
And so I think they are contenders for the playoffs. I think they are favorites in their division. But I think right now in the AFC, you have 4 legitimate contenders and 1 potential contender. The 4 legitimate contenders are the Chiefs, the Pats, the Chargers, and the Steelers. And I would have them in that exact order. The 1 maybe contender is the Ravens, because the Ravens' defense has been so good this year that if Flacco can get hot in the postseason again, then I'd have to include them. The Texans are a team that should have a home playoff game this year. Probably will end up being, as they have been multiple times in franchise history, underdogs in their home playoff game. And I think their absolute ceiling is the divisional round of the postseason. I think they have too many systemic flaws on the coaching staff and on the offensive line in order for me to consider them. Is this a team? We know they're not going to have a bye. So is this a team that can win 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl? 2 of those being on the road to get to the Super Bowl? No. So I can't consider them contenders in that light.
So that's what I was going to ask you. What is keeping this Texans team? Is it the offensive line from joining the Chiefs, Pats, Chargers, and Steelers, from the creme of the AFC?
It's their offensive line. It's also been the inconsistency as far as their defense. Their defense has not been dominant. J.J. Watt, you can see he dominated the first half, but sometimes he doesn't have the support. Now, he seems to be healthy. To me, I haven't seen 5 defensive players that impact the game more than J.J. Watt. So how consistent, not him, but how consistent will the linebacker play? How consistent will the secondary play, which has been questionable at times?
And yesterday, you saw their 2 30-plus-year-old corners leave the game. You saw 2 injuries in the secondary. We don't know how significant. You saw Clowney hit the injury tent, which has been the only reason this guy has been a perennial All-Pro throughout his career, is nagging injuries from him. Listen, the reason the Texans are not in that echelon right now is they have a ton of cap space, so they could be a team that actually is active at the trade deadline. It tries to pick up one of those contracts from a team that's starting to rebuild, whether it's the Giants. Like if there's significant secondary injury, could Janoris Jenkins find a home with the Texans? So they haven't spent a ton in free agency, and in order to get Deshaun Watson, they had to trade 2 first-round picks. In order to get rid of Brock Osweiler, they had to trade away a second-round pick.
And they're still paying for it.
Right, so the cupboard is not fully stocked for them. And the other reason is, and last night, give them credit, it didn't bite them. They had been just awful in the red zone. Going into last night's game, this team had kicked 20 field goals and scored 14 touchdowns. Like going into last night's game,
when I saw the graphic, I thought it was a misprint.
Yes.
I was like, man, we messed that one up right there.
And so inside the 5-yard line, they had been awful going into last night. So for all those reasons, you have questions about them you don't have with these other teams. But what you know is they have a quarterback that can go off Since the beginning of 2017, and Deshaun's only played half the games. Since the beginning of 2017, nobody has more 5-touchdown games. Nobody has more 4-touchdown games. And he missed half the season last year. So you know that their offense has the ability to put 40 up on you, even if you don't see it coming. I didn't see that coming last night.
Texans beat the Dolphins. They've now won 5 in a row. Take a break coming up. Have LeBron and the Lakers already found their groove? Next on First.